I really liked the Book of Boba Fett. It had great action, great character moments, great music, really good music, great new additions to the lore, and I think everyone on the show did a great job. But I'd be lying if I said there weren't some problems with it, and I'm sure you're going to see a million different videos in the coming weeks about those issues, but right now I want to talk about what I would have done to the show to make it better. In my opinion, of course. I'm no script writer, no screenplay writer, I'm just a fan. So please take everything I'm going to say as that. And also, I'm not going to pretend like I know better than the people behind the scenes, like Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni, Kathleen Kennedy. I'm not going to pretend like I know better than them. I'm just throwing out my ideas. Now, before I begin, let's just set some ground rules, because I'm sure there's going to be some people that are going to say, Book of Boba Fett should have had Han Solo show up, Luke Skywalker should have done like 10 different backflips, Embo, Bossk, Dengar, Jango Fett, and the Knights of Ren should have showed up. Boba Fett should have dueled Kira on the top of the Crimson Dawn Tower, and that's fine and all, but I want to be like realistic here, and I don't want to like change the entire show, you know what I mean? I just want to add a few things, change a few things, you know, a little here and there. So the 3 rules I'm going to give myself for this are, number 1, it has to be 7 episodes. No additional episodes. Rule number 2, Luke Skywalker and the new Jedi Order stuff must be in the show. And finally, probably the most important one, rule number 3, no new characters. So for example, I cannot just say like, throw Bossk in there, throw Dengar in there, Han Solo, Chewbacca, Death Stick, etc. I'm not going to throw those people in. If the character appears in any of the 7 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett, then sure, I can use them. But if they're not, I cannot. So here's the 4 things I'd change the Book of Boba Fett to make it better. Number 1, shorter than the saving Fennec Shand v surgery scene. Look, that scene's cool and all, the gadgets and whatever, but it did not have to go on for that long. It really didn't. And while on paper this is a really minor point, which, I mean, ultimately it is, you can use that screen time for something else. So let's take the surgery scene and cut it in half. You know, we don't need the entirety of it. With that saved time, we could then add another scene at the very end of the episode. Or not new scene, more like an edited scene. At the very end of the episode, when Boba Fett and my wife Fennec Shand are chilling on the balcony, Fennec will then say, "Credits can buy muscle." I can think of a few good choices. Bossk, Dengar, IG-88, C-21 Heist, to which Boba cuts her off. What's the point of buying muscle when there's no loyalty in it? No, I get an idea of who we can hire. And that's the end of the episode. That's it. Granted, again, I'm not a script writer, so the script kind of blows, but the general idea is what I'd go with. Now, what did this scene add? Did it add anything? Is it just a bit of fan service to mention those names? Now, of course, yeah, it's a little bit of fan service, but they do serve a point. The first being is that they're all related to Boba Fett's past in some way. Bossk has known Boba since the latter was a child, and the two have had a very rocky relationship. Same goes with Dengar, although they've had a friendlier relationship, but that kind of fizzled out. And C-21 Highsinger was part of Boba Fett's original crew, the Krait's Claw. Or I guess second crew, technically, but that was more like Aurra Singh's crew, but whatever, you get my point. Boba's trying to move forward in his life, and those characters all represent Boba's former life, and second, it shows Fett honors and loyalty. Sure, he could hire all 4 of those guys, but what if the Pikes offer the 4 of them more credits? I mean, the last time Boba saw Bossk and Dengar, they weren't exactly friends, and the last we saw C-21 Highsinger was in the Darth Vader comic, alone, without his crew, so there must have been some kind of breakup with the Krait's Claw. Basically, they all have reason to take the Pikes credits over Fett, and honestly, even if they did take Fett's credits, why would they even work with him? There's a good chance they'd probably just backstab him anyways. So this very small scene would add to Boba's character, both showing he honors loyalty, and it shows that he wants to work with people who he hasn't been associated with, as that was the old him, and this is the new him. And yes, Black Krrsantan and Boba Fett have worked with each other in the past, but this can be explained by Fett feeling that Black Krrsantan and him are similar, as they're both past their primes and are trying to reinvent themselves. I mean, wasn't that the entire point of why What's-Her-Face did that whole big speech to Black Krrsantan as he was strangling some Trandoshan? Oh, and for IG-88, I mean, nobody's gonna trust that dude. Number 2, shorten the Naboo N1 Starfighter repair scene. Look, I liked it as much as the next guy to see the little BD units and the pit droids do whatever, but come on, do we really need, like, all of this? We could have cut this a bit. So let's cut that in half and use that time to create a new scene at the very end of the episode. So the episode goes like this. At the very end of the episode, after Din says he has to visit Grogu before joining up with Fett, instead of just ending the episode there, the episode cuts back to Boba Fett's palace. We see Boba and Danny Trejo's character. I don't know why they don't name these characters. We see Boba Fett and Danny Trejo's character in the Rancor pit. Boba's trying to bond more with the Rancor, when he gets interrupted by Fennec Shannon on a hologram, saying that Din will join them soon enough. And then Boba's like, I can wait. I got some things I'd like to do before we go to war. Not actually that line, because it's clunky as hell, but something like that. And that's the end of the episode. It doesn't actually have to be like a long scene, but it's an important addition to the episode for two reasons. Number one, we actually see Boba Fett in the show, The Book of Boba Fett. Seriously, why doesn't he appear at all in Chapter 5? Number two, in Chapter 3, Danny Trejo mentions how it's gonna take some work to get the Rancor to let Fett ride him. We don't see this trading, bonding, or whatever. It just goes from that scene to Fett using the Rancor as a threat in Chapter 4, to then Boba riding him in Chapter 7. This really, really small sequence goes a long way, as it directly shows that Fett's training, or bonding, or whatever you want to call it, with the Rancor. It also tells the audience that the show didn't forget about this plotline, and makes the Rancor scene much more fulfilling at the end. I mean, like I said, we went from I'm going to train with it to, yeah, I'm kind of a master with it. Very weird we didn't get even a little bit of training. And speaking of training, number 3, shortening Grogu's training. This is probably the most controversial change, and Season 3 of The Mandalorian could justify its inclusion in the Book of Boba Fett, but as for right now, I don't really see a purpose. I think after Din leaves the planet, we should leave the planet too. We don't come back to Luke, Grogu, and Ahsoka until the final scene of the episode. Which, yeah, of course I'm going to keep the Luke and Ahsoka scene. How could I not? Just change it so that Luke and Ahsoka are outside the temple at night, and then you can have the conversation happen there. And then it cuts to Luke offering Grogu the choice, and then the episode ends. Look, as funny as it is seeing Grogu jump around and getting shot at by a training droid, I don't think we need to spend like 4 minutes on it. Instead, let's replace it with a scene of Boba Fett talking with one of the mods. No, not one of Boba Fett's Discord mods. They're currently being investigated for grooming children. I'm talking about these mods. Let's say after Din leaves, we cut back to Jabba's palace. Fett's walking around the castle when he runs into Drash, who's looking a bit nervous. Fett can ask her, what's wrong, to which she can say, going to war with the Pike Syndicate is a big upgrade from stealing water. Boba then can have a little moment with her, explaining that this war is important. Basically what Din says to Cobb Vanth later in the episode, how if they ignore it, it's just going to become their problem later down the line. In fact, this could be a parallel of that scene, I don't know. By the end of this short scene, Drash is feeling more confident. Fennec and then, or one of the Gamorreans or something, can walk in and be like, hey, it's time for the war meeting. And Fett can say something as he's walking away like, besides, I thought you were all about upgrades. And then the scene switches over to Din arriving at Jabba's palace, and that's it. That's all we have to add. I want to add this scene because it gives Drash some actual character. We've seen that she's cocky and brave, and she hates like the country folk, and the country folk hate the town folk. Kind of a random thing to throw in Chapter 7, but whatever. And sure, she stands up to people in authority, but fighting in a war? She might crack a bit. So we can have a nice scene here where Fett bonds with her, and maybe there can be like another mod or two there that he's inspiring. But the point is, we give them something to do, and show off Fett's relationship with the mods some more. Because outside of Chapters 3 and 7, we barely see the mods do anything. And finally, number 4. Make Cad Bane's appearance actually impact something. So I, along with everybody else, was hyped to see Cad Bane again, and finally in live action. The problem is, he doesn't really do anything in the show. And I know you're not going to believe me, but let's just look over what he did in the show. He shows up to Freetown, kills Cobb Vanth and that other dude, finds out the Pikes killed the Tuskens, and then tells Boba that the Pikes killed the Tuskens to get him emotional, leaves, shows back up, scares the Rancor, which is arguably the only thing he does, and then dies. Nothing he did has any consequences. Well, long-term consequences. Cobb Vanth's not dead, kinda wish he did. I love Cobb Vanth, but come on, have some kind of consequence. Boba gets emotional with the Pikes for a second, and then the Rancor gets calmed down without anyone getting seriously hurt or dying. And then Cad Bane just dies. Were his interactions with Fett cool? Yeah, they were awesome. Was it poetic or metaphorical or something when Boba killed Cad Bane with the Tusken Spear? Yeah, it was. But that's it. So what if, in Chapter 7, we have the Pike Syndicate guy tell the mayor that Cad Bane was the one that killed the Tuskens, and that they had hired him to kill them? And instead of Cad Bane then going, the Pikes killed, I'm not going to do a Cad Bane impression, the Pikes killed your Tusken family, he tells Fett that he personally killed his family. Now for audiences who haven't seen the Clone Wars, now there's even more reason to hate this dude, especially since Cobb Vanth didn't actually die. It's not a major change, but it makes the fight with him all the more personal for Boba and the audience. And when Boba Fett eventually kills Cad Bane with the Tusken Spear, it's kind of like, that's what you get, dude. You mess with the Tuskens, you get the horns? Yeah, that's the classic Star Wars catchphrase. Mess with the Tuskens, get the horns. Yep, I want that on a t-shirt. As for him dying, I'm fine with it as long as he did something. Problem is, in the Book of Boba Fett, I don't think he really did too much. But in my version, I think he actually does. Overall, I don't think the Book of Boba Fett was a bad show by any means. I think it was a really great Star Wars show. Just a solid Boba Fett show. Not amazing, but not bad by any means. Do I think that these 4 changes would quote-unquote save the show? No, but I think they'd add character to it and help with its identity problem, as I think everyone can agree with that. The Book of Boba Fett has a bit of an identity issue, as now Boba Fett gets meaningful character development scenes in the 2 episodes where he appears for a total of 40 seconds, in both of them combined. And Cad Bane actually does something impactful. So, what did you think of my ideas? Did you like them? Did you not like them? Leave your comments below. Maybe give out your own ideas, using the rules that I gave. Until next time, I'll see you later.
It takes a pet, like no problem.
Yeah.
Right? Not afraid at all. That's a great cat right there.